So we're at the Next Gen Optical Networks and DCI event in Nice, France. I'm here with Adrian from the IETF. Adrian, good to see you.
Hi.
So can you give us just a quick intro for those who don't know the IETF? You know, what does the organisation do? What kind of specs and standards are you putting out there in the market?
Yeah, so the IETF is the standards body for the internet, and its mission is to make the internet work better. It produces standards for a whole range of protocols that are essential to make the internet work, and it's an open organisation, and that means that anyone can participate. You don't have to pay a membership, you don't have to be affiliated with a company, you just have to want to play at engineering the internet.
Okay.
People are sent there from lots of vendors, lots of operators, academia, consultants, and occasionally people pop up participating from their bedroom in Russia or whatever, where they're 16-year-old kids who just had a really great idea.
All right.
We work on all the key protocols that glue the internet together, like TCP and IP, and the routing protocols. BGP is very important to cement the internet. And then we've moved on to key protocols for optical networks, which is why I'm here.
Right.
Like GMPLS, and now NetConf and YANG.
Okay. So you mentioned there you're moving more into the optical domain. We're here at an optical conference. Can you just talk a little bit more detail about how the work that the IETF is doing is related to the management of optical networking?
Yeah, and it's really interesting because there's this great ambition that all optical equipment will plug together and all just work. But in practice, most optical networks are deployed as single vendor clouds. And where the standardization becomes important is both in transferable skills, so that people who operate one network can then operate another one, but also now increasingly so that you can have one management platform that manages a whole variety of optical technologies and vendors. Okay.
So one of the things that the IETF has developed is an architecture called ACTN, and that's based on the YANG models, which a lot of people in the industry will know from previous years around the evolution of virtualization. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that architecture and that use of YANG models differs from what's come before in the optical sector?
Right. ACTN is novel in as much as it's a generalized architecture, a recursive architecture that can be applied in a technology agnostic way to any network that is TE based, so traffic engineered.
Okay.
And that may be a packet network or an optical network. It relies very heavily on YANG, which is the modeling language developed in the IETF. So you get this interoperability and standardization benefit that operators seem to be really keen on at the moment.
Okay. So exactly what kind of role or impact can members of the vendor and operator community have in terms of the development of these kind of architectures and the use of these kind of models? And ultimately, how does the IETF hope that the network operators will adopt these models and these architectures and put them into use in production networks?
Right. The standardization in our industry has typically been vendor-led because it's the vendors who are making the equipment.
Yeah.
But the IETF likes to have the operators involved because they bring a touch of reality. They are able to show how the requirements are actually driving what's built.
Right.
And they can come and play at the IETF in exactly the same way as the vendors do. They can influence, and with the YANG models, they've been a particularly strong influence.
Okay.
So we have some RFCs, those are the IETF standards, that have been written entirely by operators. I'm thinking of the layer 3 VPN service model, for example, that was just operators said, this is what we want, this is the YANG we want, now you guys go out and implement it. And that sort of feeds back. So we have a hackathon every IETF meeting where people come and write code. And some of the code they write is for Yang models and for management platforms. And there they're able to talk to the people that wrote the specs and talk to other implementers and get clear in what exactly it means and build. And that has a positive feedback loop into the standardization. And there's an important point there that we tend not to like to put out standards until there is running code.
Right.
That's one of the precepts of the IETF is that there should be running code, and so prototypes from vendors, proof of concept, and hacked code, open source code. It's all part of that input.
Okay. So, what's coming down the pipe next? What's the latest areas of research or development at the IETF that's relevant to the optical sector?
Well, I would push on with this discussion of ACTN and Yang because the reason I'm here is we've just had a workshop for the Metro Hall project, which is a European Commission project that has 21 partner companies and research institutions from around Europe. And we are basing our control plane, management plane architecture on ACTN and Yang.
Okay.
We're picking up the IETF work ahead of standard and implementing in several open source platforms as well as private implementations, and putting that together to produce a control environment for a flexible metro optical network. And what that shows is that there are network operators. We have Telecom Italia, BT, and Telefonica in the partnership, and they're all pushing very hard because they see the value of a standardized common approach. And we see that from other operators as well. So in the workshop we had a speaker from Orange and a speaker from Vodafone, and Vodafone in particular, they've always driven SDN. And now they're really pushing hard on Yang, saying we would like our Yang all to come from one stable, so it's all consistent, conformant, and all works
common
together.
Language.
Common language, common interpretation of how you structure the data models and everything. And in the IETF, they get the added benefit that all of the Yang documents that are published get reviewed by a team of Yang doctors, who include the people who invented Yang.
Right. Okay.
So it's pretty on the ball.
Okay. Well, everything you've talked about there sounds right in line with what we're hearing here at the event. What the operators are looking for to develop their next gen network. So, very interesting developments. Adrian, thank you very much.
Thank you.